My name is Eleanor Risa. Thank you, Ma. And it's an honor for me to be here for many, many reasons, especially to be in the company of such extraordinary, thoughtful, innovative, brave, special humans in Manhattan. Yiddish was my first language. My parents came to America in 1949. My mother fled from Poland to Tashkent. My father survived Auschwitz, and we lived in Brooklyn. They came in 49, and I was born many, 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 many years later. And when we were in Brooklyn, I always thought there were two kinds of Jews, the happy Jews and the sad Jews. And then I learned that the happy Jews were the Italians. My mother always said, every cloud, every silver lining has a cloud. And that's pretty much how life was in Brooklyn. And now I'm in Manhattan for half my life, 10, 15 years, because I can't afford to live in Brooklyn anymore. It's an honor for me to be here, and it's just a small kind of sidebar, also has to do with being Jewish. And when my family came to America, everyone changed their name. Everyone shaved their beard, cut their payas, and that was the women. You know, I hate that joke. I hate that joke, but it's hard to stay away from it. And so everyone changed my name. My cousin Chayute changed her name to Charlotte. My uncle Velvel changed his name to Walter. And I knew this girl, Alterische Schlisselberg, 46 consonants and 3 vowels, who changed her name to Eleanor Risa. I thought it would be Italian, and that was better than Jewish. But here we are in a community where it's not like that anymore. So it's my pleasure now to act as a short-time hostess for you and introduce to you the Executive Vice President of the New York Board of Rabbis, Rabbi Joseph Potaznik.
Thank you so much. It's always great to be with my favorite weather person, Mr. G. Thank you for being here. Let me just say to all of you, I put on this uniform because we're now forming the new Jewish FDNY calendar. And we're, I don't think that was funny. And so far we have 1 page. Anyway, thank you all for allowing me to participate. I just want to say one brief thing. Years ago, when Joe Lieberman was running for vice president, there was an interesting incident that took place in Pittsburgh. He walked off the plane. Secret Service was there. They opened up the trunk of the limousine. They took something out that was rather long, and people thought it was a weapon. It was a lulav. It was a palm branch because that was Chol Hamoed, the intermediate day of Sukkot. And Joe Lieberman, while he was traveling, campaigning, wanted to make sure that he would fulfill that mitzvah of having the lulav during that festival. To me, that's an important statement, because one of the characteristics of a lulav is you can't hide it. You know, you walk around with it, you can't hide it. Someone once said, why don't we have a procession with a chauffeur? And the answer is you can hide a chauffeur. A lulav you can't hide. To me, that's what this evening is all about. It's about people who are proud Jews. My father always taught me, I don't care what kind of Jew you are, but be proud of the Jew you are. So tonight is a great moment in Manhattan. We had one in Brooklyn some time ago where I participated. So thank you all for doing this. And it was Bishop Fulton Sheen, Rabbi Schneier, you remember him. I think you wrote some of his material. But Bishop Fulton Sheen, who was on Tuesday nights. Do you remember that? He was on Tuesday nights opposite Milton Berle. And as a matter of fact, Berle said to him once, you have better ratings than I do. And his answer was, well, you have better writers than I do. And the lesson that Sheen said was when a young child does something he or she enjoys, what does the child say? Mom, Dad, let's do it again. Let's do it again. So I say to all of you, let's continue to have these celebrations with proud Jews for many, many years. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rabbi Potosnik. It's my pleasure now to introduce, the guy who we're all here to see, who we all know, the founding chair of the Manhattan Jewish Historical Initiative and its MJHI, Manhattan Jewish Hall of Fame, Howard Teach.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to MJHI's first inaugural Manhattan Jewish Hall of Fame induction ceremony. The class of 2017, as we call it. See, by this class of Hall of Fame class of 2017, the extraordinary Jews we have in Manhattan and the vast achievements in their lives. That's the essence of MJHI. People need to know. The New York Jewish community and the New York Jewish experience has been one of the greatest achievements in the history of our people during its entire 5,000-year history. Yes, I would say one of the 5 greatest civilizations of all. And we've all done it, much due to the freedom we have in America, and to the largest extent, it's been hidden. And when I say the world should know, they have not. We are all aware of Israel and proud of it. Yet the New York Jewish community has gotten lost in the story of our times. And so the beginnings of Brooklyn, the Bronx, and Manhattan historical initiatives, which we've done over the last number of years, reaching many thousands of people already throughout the world with our story and locally, and now with these Hall of Fames, individual stories of our greatest leadership and achievers will be recognized. You should know, as an example, in Brooklyn, the metrics show that nearly 100,000 people came to the site last year, locally and throughout the world. That's not insignificant, and we're growing, and we've done it with not a lot of money. But that's true of what we can do in this technological age. We can really reach out a lot. We thank all of you for being here tonight and welcome your active participation in the future. And so, your homework assignment. Don't think you're getting out of this without a homework assignment. It's as easy as going to the website, manhattanjewish.org, and then go to your story category at the top of the welcome page and tell us an anecdote of your life and or your community. The site is interactive, and you can even include pictures digitally to us, and then we can post it, and it'll be there permanently for everybody to see. Tell all your friends and family to do the same. That's how we create a populist history of the Manhattan Jewish experience. Finally, I thank this incredible class of 2017, and what a group it is. Let's have a round of applause. We knew when we were putting together Manhattan that it would be top rate. You couldn't even imagine this. I mean, and to have all of them be here is unbelievable. So thank you all for that. We're very proud of who you are and what you've done, and we look forward to having you involved in the future as well. So thank you.
So I'm Linda Rosenthal. I'm an assembly member. I represent the 67th Assembly District, which is the Upper West Side and parts of Hell's Kitchen. And it's exciting to be here with all the incredible inductees for the first MJHI Hall of Fame celebration. Thank you to Howard for his years of selfless work on many, many issues, but especially on this one. The importance of preserving Jewish history and memorializing the stories and people who have so richly colored Jewish history right here in Manhattan is invaluable. Now, I'm not talking about my apartment, which has all the books that my grandfather, who was a rabbi, accumulated. So it's not that personal memorializing the stories. My mother's side of the family fled Nazi Germany in the late 30s, and they sought refuge on the Upper West Side. My grandfather had been a rabbi in Cologne, and not long after they fled, his synagogue was destroyed. But they came here to New York, to the Upper West Side, and felt safe there. It was a community with others just like them, and they all lived in harmony despite some poverty, struggles to create a new life. but many of them continue to stay there, and that's where I live today. While we feel safe on the Upper West Side, there actually have been hate crimes and anti-Semitic acts on the West Side. The doors of a church in my district were carved with swastikas. Subway cars had spray-painted anti-Semitic rhetoric. There have been bomb threats and barrage of Jewish hate mail flooded mailboxes, including my own. So it's against this backdrop of today's reality that it's more important than ever that we remember our heritage, celebrate our past, and honor our heroes. Many of us are children of heroes, and we must remember their strength and let their courage propel us through these uncertain times. Now, tonight's inductees represent courage, bravery, all sorts of attributes that I won't address because we have presenters to do that. But just like to say I trust the fabric of our city, the values of the Jewish community at large and the city at large that first drew my family here. Whatever group our fly-by-night president has helped to invigorate will soon feel the weight of our deep history and strong bonds. So the decades of incredible work that we are memorializing here tonight is precisely what keeps me and so many others reassured that we will all be okay. So it's great pleasure to be here, to be involved with MHJI and MJHI, and I look forward to a great evening. Congratulations to all the winners. Thank you.
As Linda was saying, we are facing very perilous times as a country. And if you need a deeper understanding of that, I would suggest you read Sinclair Lewis's 1935 novel, It Can't Happen Here, because it's already, the first chapter or two of that book have already started. Part of what will protect this country is strengthening the institutions in this country that speak to our variety of humanist values and heritage, and being organized around those values and heritage. And if that doesn't point you directly to Jewish history, I don't know what does. So this is an important part of Judaism and Jewish history and Manhattan. It's also one of many things that need to be strengthened to protect the very soul of this country. Thank you.
I am just in awe of the inductees and all of their stories that they are sharing about our living history of our city, one that we need to capture and preserve to ensure that the full picture of New York City's growth and development is known to generations to come. I am a pretty avid supporter of archives and history, and I think Howard knows the story, Shula does, but I happen to like Mayor Bloomberg. Half the people I know didn't, but I like Mayor Bloomberg. But then he decided to take the municipal archives and stick it in the Department of Citywide Services, and they do like bricks and mortar, they run buildings, they have warehouses. But what in the world would the archives do with the Department of Citywide Administrative Services? We kept them separate. And in doing that, I learned and met with all the archivists in the city and the state of New York. The Philharmonic, the Goldman Sachs, the Department of Sanitation Archives, and of course the major work that is done here by the Manhattan Jewish Historical Initiative. That was so exciting to go to a round table with every historian for every institution in the state of New York. It was like fabulous. And that's, I think, another reason that we're here tonight, and I want to thank Victoria, because being here at the Mechanics Institute is one more example of how great New York is in terms of preserving our history. You look at all this amazing history around us. So The honorees have impacted and continue to make deep and lasting contributions to social justice, labor, education, art, law, athletics, community relations, religious life, peace, and of course, all the great things about the theater and what makes New York great. So I want to congratulate all of them, their families, their friends, and of course, a very special thank you to my mentor, Ruth Messinger. You know, we teach in every Wednesday morning at 8 a.m. at Hunter College together. And the students, when she's not there, they get a half-baked class. But when Ruth is there, it's fantastic, telling stories about what real policy and real politics is and the history of New York and what's going on currently. So I learn a lot, and it's fun to be able to have learned from her in the city council. Trying to follow her in the borough president's office is absolutely impossible, but I'm doing the best I can. But we look forward to continuing the stories that are being told tonight and that need to be told for improving our city, because without these stories, the next generation doesn't learn, and all of us don't get the sense of humor and purpose that tonight is really proving is the backbone of our city. Thank you very much. This is really exciting to be here tonight. Thank you.
It's my pleasure now to serve as I get to introduce one of the honorees now, and it's really an enormous, enormous pleasure for me to do so. Part of my day job these days is that I'm in the cast of a Broadway show, a little play called Indecent. And it's an important play, and it's a beautiful play. And so I have the honor now to introduce the woman who produced this play, the woman who has produced over 100 plays on and off Broadway, whose plays have received 7 Pulitzer Prizes, 10 Tony Awards, Olivier Awards, and untold honors. And not only that, I mean, yeah, that's swell, but also she is a woman who does work, volunteer work, and works for those less fortunate than her in many, many ways. And also, I would just like to say that she exemplifies 3 Yiddish words that I think we all love. And one of them is mensch. Another one is balabusta. It's good to be a balabusta, it really is. It means you take care of your home, and she takes care of us at the theater. And lastly, an Ashes Chayil, a woman of valor, whose presence it's a pleasure to be among. So I'm very honored to present to you Daryl Roth.
Well, thank you all. Thank you, Howard and Eleanor, for those beautiful words. And I am grateful that our lives, where are you?
Right behind you.
That our lives have come together through Indecent. And I feel honored that you're in the company. So that makes me happy every day when I go to the theater. I'm very honored to be included among this remarkable group of people. Where are you, people? Hey, Tove. All of whom have contributed so much to the life of our city and who I've admired for many years. Perhaps like many of you here, both my personal and my professional lives have been formed by my Jewish identity, my family, circumstances and events, and of course my passion for theater. I feel very connected to the Jewish traditions I was brought up with and have in turn shared them with my children. I am grateful they have in turn passed them on to their children, my 5 beautiful grandchildren, and as they say, l'ador vador. When choosing plays to produce, I look to find stories that will ensure future generations always remember our history, our heritage, and our truths. A few examples. Irena's Vow, which the very talented and beautiful Tovah Feldshuh, one of tonight's honorees, brought to life so very vividly. It was the story about one Catholic woman's courage to shelter a group of 12 Jews in the basement of a Nazi official's home during the Holocaust, and ultimately she led them to safety. A remarkable story of heroism. Stars of David, a different feeling, a lighthearted song cycle based on Abigail Pogrebin's best-selling novel, celebrating the Jewish identity of some of our most notable public figures, such as Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Edgar Bronfman, Mike Nichols, Gloria Steinem, among many others. Wiesenthal, a powerful one-man show about the inspirational and extraordinary life of Simon Wiesenthal and his dedication to bringing Nazi war criminals to justice. And the play we're referencing tonight that I'm so proud to be currently producing on Broadway, Paula Vogel's Indecent. It follows the incredible journey of a groundbreaking piece of theater by Sholem Asch, God of Vengeance, and the passionate artists who risked their lives and their careers to perform it here on Broadway. It is, at the heart, a celebration of Jewish history, of Jewish culture, and dealing with subjects that are as relevant in 2017 as they were in 1923. Immigration, anti-Semitism, freedom of speech, the freedom to love who you choose, and the transformative power of theater. I urge all of you to come and see it if you haven't, and share a very extraordinary experience, both as a Jewish person, a person who understands how much culture means in this city, and how your life can be changed by a single play. I thank you for making it your mission to ensure that our stories carry on, and I'm very humbled to accept this special acknowledgement and be deemed worthy of inclusion in this very esteemed class of 2017. Thank you so much.
Yes, you should take it. Thank you, Daryl. And right now, I have to go to work at the theater. I'm sorry. Yes, I must run. And so, I would like to thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you. The evening is not over, fortunately. And I want to introduce to you the next host for the evening, a man who you know as a weatherman, perhaps. That you know as a weatherman for NBC, but who also does extraordinary work on behalf of others. And one of his favorite things to do is to do stand-up comedy for troops overseas in Iraq, Afghanistan, Kuwait, and my favorite place, Djibouti. Sorry, to me that's a funny place. But anyway, so please now let's welcome Dave Price, and thank you all very much. Oh, there you are.
What a night. The paparazzi are here. Unbelievable. This is the Oscars. This is the Emmys. This is the American Film Institute. It's all combined into one big celebration of Jews. It's fantastic. 5,000 years of history, and it all boils down to tonight. It took us 5,000 years to come up with these names. There's so many people in the audience who I know and revere, who I've grown up beside, grown up with, grown up watching. But it makes us particularly proud to be here and celebrate not only your accomplishments, each and every one of you, but there's pride because of your Jewishness as well. 5,000 years of history, it's remarkable. All that we've accomplished as a people. The 10 Commandments, surviving 40 years in the desert, the establishment of the State of Israel, Wallbaums. Think about that. On the cab ride home, you're going to say, you know, that was funny, and I did not give him his just desserts. It is really wonderful to be here. And I don't think we do enough to celebrate as a community. We look back on the shtetl with a sense of bittersweetness. We were stuck. There was no place to go. We couldn't get out. But there was community. And now, with affluence and our ability to travel and be wherever we want to be and do whatever we want to do, the one thing maybe we have sacrificed is that sense of community. And so tonight, it's so lovely to be back together. And we should remember this. We need more times to celebrate. We need more times to smile. We need more times to be united. Regardless, thank you. Regardless of how different we've become, where we may be on the political spectrum, we need more time to unite as Jews. And it is perhaps now more important than it has ever been before in modern history. So it is indeed, thank you. It's indeed a great pleasure to be here. Just a little bit of my own family history. My parents grew up in the shtetl of the Bronx, and then left and went to the Hudson Valley, to the great Jewish center of Poughkeepsie, New York. But the Bronx never left them. And the home they grew up in never left them. And a Shabbos where we sat together as a family never left them. And as a result, their 4 sons carry on those same traditions. And what's amazing about tonight is this is an esteemed group of people in theater and sports and business and law, etc. But you're being recognized not only for your accomplishments in the field you've chosen and excelled in, but in what you've given back to the Jewish people and how important you are for all the rest of us to look up to and to follow in the example you've set forth for us. So it is a great privilege to honor each and every one of you tonight. So allow me, if I can, to read a little bit about each of our honorees. We begin tonight with Michael Dorf, who is the founder and CEO of City Winery, New York. It is New York City's first and only fully functioning winery, and has provided Jews around the world with relief from Manischewitz. It is a winery, it is a restaurant, it is an event space based in Soho with additional city winery venues dotting their way across the US. As an entrepreneur, Michael has created various musical festivals, and his first musical venue, the Knitting Factory, is absolutely legendary. His creativity continues as the conceiver and producer of the Downtown Seder, which for 25 years has presented an alternative celebrity Seder for 300 people a year who can sit and honestly answer the question, why is tonight different than all other nights? So Michael, we honor you for your great works in the arena of business and the culinary arena, the entertainment arena, and for making us each so proud of everything you have done. Congratulations. Tovah Feldshuh. So Tovah, who is timeless, is currently starring in the Golden Globe-winning hit Crazy Ex-Girlfriend on the CW network. If you have not watched it, you absolutely must find it. The writing is brilliant, the acting even better, and Tovah is a gem. In addition to her many stage, film, and TV directorial credits and awards, she has an endless literally endless list of accolades for her work. She recently appeared on Broadway in the Tony Award-winning musical revival of Pippin. For her other work on the New York stage, Tovah has earned, get your scorecards ready, and I'm not talking about our Shamsky yet. Get your scorecards out here. 4 Tony nominations for Best Actress, 4 Drama Desk Awards, 4 Outer Critics Circle Awards, the Obie, the Theater World Award, and the Lucille Lortel Award, the Helen Hayes Award for Best Actress. And the list goes on and on and on. And because we only have this room for a short time, I can't read all of them. Golda's Balcony became the longest-running one-woman show in the history of Broadway in 2004. Yay! Yay is right. And you know what? It's 2017 right now, and that record still stands and most likely will forever. She is the Michael Jordan, the Wayne Gretzky of stage actresses, a remarkable talent that set a high bar early in her career, and that high bar has remained. And for most other actresses and actors who enter the business, they simply watch and wonder and hope to emulate what she has done. So we are so grateful and honored and privileged and in awe of having you amongst us tonight, Tovah Feldshuh. I was thrilled when I heard we were honoring Mantovani tonight, and then I reread the script, and it is Cantor Joseph Malavani, a musical genius in his own right. Let me tell you about this remarkable man with an angelic voice. Cantor Joseph Malavani has served as the cantor of the Fifth Avenue Synagogue since 1973. A tenor, he serves as a distinguished professor of liturgical music at Yeshiva University, and he is the only religious Jewish American recipient of Poland's knighthood as a commander of the Legion of Honor. His global work includes that of rector of the Institute of Jewish Traditional Liturgical Music in Leipzig and in Berlin, Germany, and he was a former dean of the JDC Moscow Academy of Cantorial Music. A remarkable talent, certainly wonderful to listen to when he speaks, but it is his singing voice which absolutely takes you to heaven. It is indeed an honor to bring you to us tonight and to join you in your celebration of your accomplishments. Ruth Messinger, who is the inaugural global ambassador of the American Jewish World Service, which she served as president and CEO from 1998 to July 2016. Ruth is presently involved in several social justice projects and previously engaged in a 20-year New York City public service career that included serving as a city council member and as Manhattan Borough President, as well as a Democratic mayoral candidate in 1997. She is an active member of the Society for the Advancement of Judaism. She is an ever-present figure in our city and in this borough, and there will be no history books written on the growth of Manhattan and how this borough flourished that will not include her name over and over and over again. Ruth, it is a pleasure to have you with us tonight. Our next honoree, I am privileged to mention and, of course, go through his CV, but I would be even more fascinated to just ride home with him and talk to him tonight. Michael Mukasey. We are grateful to have you with us tonight. Michael Mukasey served as the 81st Attorney General of the United States of America with distinguished honor from November 2007 to January 2009, where he oversaw the U.S. Justice Department, advised many on critical issues of domestic and international law. He previously served as a district judge in the United States District Court for the Southern District of New York, becoming the chief judge in 2000. And while on the bench, he handled high-profile cases, including the trial of Omar Abdel Rahman and the case of Joseph Padilla. He is a great legal mind. He is someone who has given his life to the service of his country. And over and above all, he proves and has proven over and over and over again, regardless of where you stand on the political spectrum, from the far left to the far right, you can respect good people who work with their minds and work with their hearts, whose only goal is the betterment of the nation they serve. We are so honored to be with you tonight. Thank you so much, sir. So there's this little synagogue up the block from where I live. And my local rabbi is a man you may or may not heard of. Rabbi Arthur Schneier, whose name is synonymous with Judaism in New York. He himself is a walking history book. The senior rabbi of Park East Synagogue for 55 years. The founder and president of the Appeal of Conscience Foundation, the only rabbi to receive the U.S. Presidential Citizens Medal for his service as an international envoy for 4 administrations, and as a Holocaust survivor devoting a lifetime to overcoming forces of hatred and intolerance. Pope Francis made him the Papal Knight for his unceasing work to promote peace and mutual understanding. Founder of the Rabbi Arthur Schneier Park East Day School, he's known for his pioneering role on behalf of Soviet Jewry, advocacy for Israel, rebuilding religious life in Russia, Eastern Europe, and China. Leadership on national and international issues has always been one of the things where he has been most frequently called upon to do. It has earned him high awards from countries around the globe, and most of all, it has earned him the appreciation of all of us in this room and so many right here in New York City. Rabbi, a great privilege to be with you on Shabbos and on any day during the year, but especially tonight. Art Shamsky. Art Shamsky played professional baseball for 13 years, starting his career with the Cincinnati Reds in 1960, but none of it mattered. Nothing mattered before or after he was traded to the New York Mets. And he was a major part of the Miracle Mets that won the 1969 World Championship. He won't tell you the secrets of a minion before each game in the locker room, but that's what did it. Art has since worked as a sports broadcaster, entrepreneur, and he authored The Magnificent Seasons, a book about the New York Jets, Mets, and Knicks. And he managed, of course, the Modine Miracle team in the new professional Israeli baseball league. And if you want to actually hear some interesting stories, ask Art about that experience. Ask him about the birth and growth of baseball in Israel. It is a great privilege to stand by your side, to look back at history, to celebrate all that you have done, and to anticipate all that is yet to be done by you. So good to have you here, Art. Randi Weingarten. Now, I am a 20-year veteran of the New York news scene, and I can tell you definitively, it is much better to have Randi Weingarten on your side than to have Randi Weingarten opposing you. So we're in good stead tonight. Randi Weingarten serves as the president of the 1.6 million member American Federation of Teachers, AFL-CIO, which represents educators and staff in education, healthcare, and government sectors. Randi's work has always been dedicated to the same pillars: fairness, democracy, economic opportunity, and high-quality public education, healthcare, and public services for students, their families, and communities. And in a world where we celebrate so many things and reward so much that's a flash in the pan, or in the long term, not that impactful, Randi's goal was to reward and recognize the people who mold and determine what the next generation of citizen will be. And I would urge you, and I tell you myself as a product of public education, who is still in touch with the teachers I had in elementary and high school, these are the miracle workers. These are the heroes. These are the people each and every day as we walk by that school and pick up our kids that we ought to say thank you to. And they are led by this remarkable woman. So ladies and gentlemen, Randi Weingarten, so good to be with you tonight. Mort Zuckerman couldn't join us this evening, but you almost need to say nothing which follows his name. He has played principal roles in business and had remarkable success. And he's had that same level of success with the input he has provided in the nonprofit world. He's received awards from governments of France and Canada, among others. Mort has served in more leadership roles than anyone can mention. All with distinction, all with enthusiasm, all with the same elbow grease that he exercised when he first started to climb the ladder of success. None of that ever left him. He has served on the boards of hospitals, educational institutions, and major organizations, Jewish and non-Jewish, including being past chair of the Conference of Presidents of Major Jewish Organizations. And so tonight, we send our best wishes and we salute him with this recognition. And we thank him for all he has done for so many decades to make our place, our home, our world better each and every day. So we congratulate Mort Zuckerman. And now, if it's okay, and I want to check with our organizers, I'd like to invite each of our speakers, each of our honorees, to say a few words tonight.
Well, it's clear why I was invited. These are very distinguished people, and I bring free wine with me wherever I go. So next year, when I'm also here as a class of 18, you know why they keep inviting me. I was asked to give a short anecdote and was trying to think of something that would fit all the boxes: Manhattan, the box of Jewish, the box of a hall, and the box of a fame or famous. And I thought about the first Seder I did outside of downtown, which was at Avery Fisher Hall in 1997. And I do this weird Seder a week before Passover, and actually Dr. Ruth has been there, and Art has been there, and Tovah has been there, and Ruth Messinger has spoken. And I bring people together, and you all take a little part of the Haggadah, and we have a fun time. And that year, 1997, we called it a cyber Seder because we were experimenting a lot 20 years ago with the internet and trying to get the program out to the world. We actually got it sponsored by Microsoft, and it was for 700 people at Avery Fisher Hall. That same year, the UJ Federation, who do such great work and they're brilliant at raising money, had created a new division called the New Media Division, and it invited me to participate. And unable to write a check, I had the idea, well, why don't you guys become the beneficiary of my Seder? You know, it's going to be at Avery Fisher Hall, very distinguished. And then I had this idea, really brilliant, where I'd have 4 levels of tickets. I'd have the Wise Child ticket, which would be a big donation. I had the simple child, the child who didn't know how to ask, all the way down to a $40 ticket, which was the bad child. And the whole thing was a donation for the UJA Federation. Well, the day we were going to go on sale with tickets, which was a little late, about 4 weeks before the Seder, the legal department at the UJA said, you know, we have an issue with the way you're marketing it. This can't really be a benefit. You can't use UJA, you can't accept money on our behalf. And it was a legal issue. John Risque, who was there, sweet man, mensch, was apologetic and said, you know, I'm sorry, we just can't participate. We're happy to take your money, but you can't show us as a beneficiary. And so, being at, you know, we're all Jews and we look at the world in a funny way, everybody bought the bad child ticket because it was not going to be a write-off. And at $40 a head, I was only going to lose about $30 a head across the whole thing because catering is, you know, expensive. Kosher catering, of course. And so it was a bit of a debacle, but the good news was all of a sudden the New York Times wrote a thing on the Seder, and we had gotten then completely sold out of $40 tickets. There were a few simple child $80 tickets sold, but for the most part, everyone went for the cheaper tickets. And we had a rush of the door, and we had to staff it ourselves because it was at the promenade at Avery Fisher Hall. And I used interns as our box office. Most of them were non-Jewish interns, and we had this group of people, just a rush of people coming, and they couldn't hold them back. I'm not going over my 3 minutes, I promise, Howard. And they almost were rushing the stage. Now, the group of people who were coming were mostly 50, 60, 70, and 80-year-old Jews who had seen this article and wanted to participate in the Seder. So I had to go to the front of the group and say, you know, we're really sorry, you know, we can't let you in. And people were going, we must go in, we have to come to the Seder, we read about it, how can you advertise? And we're like, we didn't advertise, it was an article, and, you know, it was wonderful, and we're really sorry, you know, next year, you know, please come. And an older woman, she must have been 93, looked at me, and she pulled me aside, and she looked at me in the eyes, and she goes, "You're not even Jewish, are you?" And that's what it's like putting on shows in New York City that have a Jewish component to it. It's quite a challenge. Thank you very much for this.
It's just great to be here. I know so many of you, and so many of you came in response to my email, so thank you so much. And Daryl, thank you. Thank you for the jobs, and thank you for your friendship. Thank you for Stella Adler. Thank you for Reina Gut Updike. Thank you for standing up for people of all gender, people of all religions, and always reminding us of our own tradition. You really, really, Daryl, you make a difference. Really do. I mean, we all make a difference, but she's my employer, for God's sakes. Okay, let's get serious. All right. I was born practically on the pavement of 90th and Lexington Avenue in front of Beth David Hospital in an undisclosed decade. My mother was born on a dining room table in the Bronx. My father was born like a normal, in a bed, but that was in Paterson, New Jersey, so who the hell cares? Both of my parents were graduates of NYU, and before she died, my mother, Lily, was celebrated by the School of Arts and Sciences of New York University to commemorate the 80th anniversary of her graduation, and that was when she turned 100, because in those years, she was born April the 18th, 1911, in those years, if you were clever, you were in rapid advance, and people entered college at 16, which both my parents did, so she graduated at 20. And so she was honored in the Javits Convention Center by the School of Arts and Sciences. And the president of NYU quipped, "You see, if you go to NYU, you too can live till 100. My dreams of Broadway started with the LPs my parents owned of the Broadway shows, Rodgers and Hammerstein, Comden and Green, Gershwin, Lerner and Lowe, Lowe and Lane. And actually, as a diversion, I did work for Richard Rodgers, I did work for Comden and Green, I did work for Burton Lane, whose real name is Levy. My married name is Levy, so I figured we were related. Those tunes wafted through our living room along with the smells of delicious cooking by my mother, Lily, and the off-key singing of my father, Sidney. We had moved from Manhattan when I was just a tot to this sprawling house in Scarsdale, but I commuted into the city for as long as I can remember, and I had to wear my white gloves, my white anklets, my Mary Jane shoes, and either my fall coat and hat, my winter coat and hat, or my spring coat and hat. And we went to the young people's concerts conducted by Leonard Bernstein, voice lessons at the Hotel Ansonia, and my first Broadway show, Damn Yankees, for my brother David's 10th birthday. And watching from the balcony, my fate was sealed. I could think of nothing I wanted more to do than to become a Broadway actor. I never knew I would get on the marquee, so I would become what is perceived as a Broadway star. And as I always say, that's local talent. You're famous within a few block radius, you get some great tables at the restaurants, and you're invited to the mayor's house. But on the other hand, you are my few block radius. You are my home, my Oklahoma. So I would commute in. I dreamt of being a Broadway star. I attended Sarah Lawrence College and then Columbia, and every Wednesday from Bronxville, I would go to study with Uta Hagen at HB Studios on Bank Street. And it was from her that I learned how to coach soccer, because I noticed that she never criticized the students, she just refocused them. So when I had the honor of coaching my daughter's soccer team from the age of 5 to the age of 10, and I think we were like the 14 carats one year, we were the purple Barbie dolls another year. It was wild. But when they would come to me and say, Coach, I made a goal with my elbow, I always knew to say, how interesting, what an interesting idea. Why don't we try it now with your foot? And that I learned from Uta Hagen. I worked at La Mama ever so briefly with my college compatriots and at the 4th Street Church. 4th Street Church. Okay, 1 minute, please. At the 4th Street Church, performing The Good Woman of Szechuan by Bertolt Brecht. Being Jewish, now that took some help from a Wesleyan boy named Michael Fairchild, who suggested that I change my name from my birth name, Terry Sue Feldshuh, to my Hebrew name, Tovah, and I was named after my mother's Aunt Tovah and my great-grandmother, Sarah. So Terry Sue was for Tovah Sarah. I won the McKnight Fellowship in Acting to the Guthrie Theater in Minneapolis, and when I landed in the Twin Cities, I learned that Tovah was also a Danish name, so everybody thought that I was a local girl. I was Tovah Feldshuh. When I arrived in New York in the musical of Cyrano with Christopher Plummer at the Palace Theater, everyone thought I was a Hebrew girl from the Middle East or an Orthodox girl, and all I can say is, oi. So, but the name Tovah Feldshuh and its perceived value did smooth my path to roles like Yentl, Helena Slomova in Holocaust, Irena Gut Opdyke, Stella Adler, Judy Stein in Kissing Jessica Stein, Lillian Kantrowitz in A Walk on the Moon, Danielle Melnick, Law and Order, Naomi Bunch, which I'm playing now in Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, and the great Golda Meir in Golda's Balcony. So I have so much to be grateful for, to this wonderful city, my Oklahoma, my Homa, the place that launched my dreams and helped me realize them. and to this extraordinary borough of Manhattan, where I have had the privilege of living as an American and as an American Jew. Thank you so much.
The story is told about that synagogue that was looking for a cantor, and a cantor submitted his application to become the cantor from another synagogue, and he brought a letter of recommendation from the old president. And that president wrote that this cantor can be compared to Moses, to Pavarotti, and to God. The new president looked at the wonderful, gave him a contract, and he says, okay, Shabbat morning, I need you to come and daven, to conduct services. So he came, and the service was a pure disaster. No voice, no musicianship, no knowledge of the prayers, nothing. On Saturday night after Shabbat, the new president calls the old president. He says, what did you do to me? He says, I told you exactly what he is. He said, but it was impossible. He says, no, that's how it is. Look, he's compared to Moses. Moses stuttered and he stutters. Number two, he is compared to Pavarotti. Pavarotti does not know Hebrew and he does not know Hebrew. Number three, he is compared to God. God is not a mensch and he is not a mensch. But seriously speaking, that the tribute to myself tonight, whilst it is personal, I think it is a tribute to the concept for which I stand for. And that is the concept of prayer. I believe in the power of prayer. I believe in the music of prayer. I believe in every motif that makes what we call nusach, that makes that particular way of chanting that prayer. And I've been working on it for many, many, many years. And so the tribute tonight, to a large extent, it is a tribute to the idea of Jewish prayer. More particularly, Jewish music, the music of the Jewish prayer. I cannot help myself. You know, I was born, actually, from all the honorees, I'm the only one who speaks with an accent here. But, and I never changed it in the 43 years that I've been the cantor of the Fifth Avenue Synagogue. I had no intentions, nor do I have any intentions. But I couldn't help myself. Coming from Israel originally, I served in Johannesburg, in London, and 43 years at the Fifth Avenue Synagogue. I couldn't help myself. I flew in quickly last night from Europe from a series of concerts. I was in Germany, gave concerts in Germany. I sang in Amsterdam at the Conference of European Rabbis, 400 rabbis. It was Victory Day, and I sang the Psalm 46. So if you want to know what Psalm 46 is, when you go home, please open the Bible and see what Psalm 46 talks about, against wars, against ammunition, and so on and so forth. But I couldn't help it sitting on the plane. Here I visit Europe with all its problems, and there is no shortage of problems. They are not thinking of Jewish Hall of Fame. They are thinking about existence. How do we retain, maintain Jewish life? And here I'm flying back to New York, and the following night, tonight, there is the Jewish Hall of Fame. That shows us how behind Europe is and how advanced the Jewish community in, well, Manhattan, but throughout the United States. And that Israel and the United States are the main Jewish centers in the world, and long may they continue. I would like to take this opportunity once again to thank the committee, Howard and others. The Upper East Side of Manhattan is well represented tonight, and that's wonderful. If I may single out my friend Rabbi Arthur Schneier of the Park East Synagogue, that's the junior congregation compared to Fifth Avenue Synagogue. But Rabbi Schneier and I have been friends from the day Beatrice and I came to the United States. And Rabbi Schneier, don't listen to it because I've told it to you many times, but there are some people here who may not have heard it. So here is the story. I'm in Budapest for concerts, and I was interviewed on the news at 9 o'clock, or no, 8 o'clock news, and they have a segment for culture. Now, you have to understand that in Hungary, every rabbi is a chief rabbi in every synagogue. Every synagogue is a chief rabbi, and every cantor is a chief cantor. They call it Förrabbin, chief. So she says to me, tell me, Cantor Malovani, you are the chief cantor of New York. Of course, there is nothing like this. It doesn't exist. You're chief cantor of New York? So I said, well, I couldn't say yes. I wouldn't say no. She says, 2 weeks ago, we interviewed the chief rabbi of New York, Rabbi Dr. Arthur Schneier. And I said, I'm very happy to hear that. Tell me, she says, are you in the same synagogue? So I said, no. In New York, the chief rabbi is in one synagogue and the chief cantor is in another synagogue. There again, I would like to congratulate all my co-honorees tonight. David, thank you for the introduction. It was nice, I liked it. And Mazel Tov to everybody, and come to the Fifth Avenue Synagogue anytime you wish. Thank you very much.
So, a couple of comments about me and New York and Manhattan and Judaism all together. First of all, I've had a lifelong love affair with this borough long before I ran for office. I am a really unusual creature. We don't go into all of the dates and the times, but we all have sort of histories of when every Jew came to America, when every Jew came to New York, and you sort of see pretty regular patterns, and they have a lot to do with all of the Brooklyn and Bronx stories that you hear on a panel like this. I am actually a third-generation Manhattanite, which is very, very unusual. I don't know what the particular attraction of the borough was, but it seems to be in my DNA. My grandfather, who was extremely important in my life, grew up on the Lower East Side, is a graduate, an early graduate of City College of New York, got his doctorate in teaching, which was pretty unusual for somebody from that background, went into, I actually don't think you know this, went into the public school system, was the principal of PS20 on the Lower East Side when Jack Javits, Harry Golden, and someone else were students there. I thought that was all apocryphal in the family, and I'll go on to tell you about the rest of his life in a minute. But when I was borough president, PS20 got a new building, and when they looked in the basement, they found all of these report cards signed by my grandfather, so they brought me to see them. So there's an archive. Anyway, he was a graduate of City College. He was principal of PS20, and he then was the first executive director of UJA Federation. So this is all in my blood. I grew up on the west side of Manhattan. Central Park was really my playground. I now bike in Central Park, and in one of these odd issues of perspective, every single time I bike past the hill at 93rd Street, which is where I grew up, I live differently on the park now, I could swear that the hill was much, much steeper 50 years ago, 60 years ago, 70 years ago. I think it probably hasn't changed. I think it's just my perspective, but every time I look at it, I think, how could I have been sledding down that slope? Because it's hardly a slope, but it's where I started my life. I loved, from the earliest days, the diversity of this borough, the ethnic enclaves that I got to know more and more of and more about when I was in the city council and when I was borough president. It's a borough, it's of course a city, but it's also a borough of extraordinary food from extraordinary places all over the world. When I used to travel and people used to ask me so what's Jewish about New York, or what's different about New York? I would say that New York is the only place in the world in which when you go into the Korean deli on Columbus Avenue and ask for a bagel, the Korean deli man asks you if you want a schmear. I want to say one or two things about Manhattan because they're not said often enough. So part of my focus when I was privileged to be in government was on the small businesses that make up the lifeblood of this city that are all through Manhattan, and say a particular shout out to the fact that Manhattan as a borough is still a home to all kinds of small industrial and manufacturing efforts, and everything that we can do to keep that diversity in our business community is actually important for all of our futures and for the people coming around. In terms of what this is all about, the Manhattan Jewish event, I would say that one of my proudest contributions to the borough of Manhattan, and therefore to the city of New York, was the work I did. It will never be entirely finished, I'll explain to you why in a minute, but to create an almost perfect walking, skating, bike path around the entire island of Manhattan. We are in this instance, hobbled by a million, but whatever it is, a 50, 60-year-old agreement with the United Nations that won't let anything be on the outside of that piece. So that's the one place where the bike path comes inland, but it is nevertheless, I think, a real accomplishment and something that I and other people use all the time. And then as a committed Jew who learned from my grandfather and from my mother, a commitment to Judaism as and being about social justice, which informed much of the work that I did in politics. I have been privileged for the last 18 years to run American Jewish World Service, which takes Jewish values to the developing world and works to support people who are pursuing their own visions of justice. And now, half step down from that job, and the final ultimate Manhattan Jewish story, my mother, who was a huge influence in my life and was the daughter of that grandfather, my mother worked for 55 years as the director of public relations, radio, and television at the Jewish Theological Seminary. If you are old enough, you remember The Eternal Light. A few people here. Yes, my mother was the co-producer of The Eternal Light. And in a wonderful story of Manhattan Jewish justice, I am now the Louis Finkelstein Fellow in Social Justice at the Jewish Theological Seminary. Thank you.
Good to be with you. I want to thank principally my wife, without whom I wouldn't be here among these honorees. And of course, she was the headmistress of an institution in Manhattan called Ramaz. And it was the same school that I attended growing up when Manhattan was an aspiration rather than a reality for me. I was raised in the Bronx and commuted on the subway. I think I've done something that nobody else in this room has done. I was actually allowed to drive a subway train when I was a little kid, having befriended a motorman. That's something that could never happen today, and if it did, the motorman would probably be not only disciplined but arrested. Show you how far we've come. Ramaz at the time called itself not Yeshiva, but it called itself the Ramaz Academy. The students were instructed that the kippah that we wore throughout the day was an indoor garment, that we were not to wear it outside. If we wanted to cover our heads, we were to wear hats, lest we get unwelcome attention from the residents of Yorkville or from those who attended the schools nearby. So we've really come a long way. We've lost some, but we've gained a lot. I think the importance of education was probably driven home to me principally by my father, who came from Belarus, it was a cold night. We were woken up in the middle of the night because of a fire at some stores next to our house, and we were told we had to evacuate the building. And so we went out. It must have been about 2:30 or 3 in the morning. We were all standing shivering outside on a February night. And of course, they put up the police horses, to keep everybody restrained. All of a sudden, my father pushed one of them aside, ran back into the building, and I couldn't understand why he'd done anything that lawless. He came out carrying my school books and my sister's school books, because whatever happened, we were going to go to school the next day. And that made the point for me, and it has ever since. So thank you to MJHI, thank you to Manhattan. Good to be with you.
Now, it's a very emotional evening for me, because 70 years ago, on May 8th, 1947, I landed in New York City. Marine Marlin carried troops during the war. And I will never forget, as we approached the port of New York, we all rushed to the deck. The excitement of seeing the Statue of Liberty. You know, having survived the Holocaust, having seen my synagogue burn, books burning, Torahs shredding, that turned into burning of human beings in Auschwitz, and then surviving, seeing that dream come true to come to the land of freedom and opportunity. It's an unforgettable experience. But one thing I've learned, don't take freedom for granted. We have to pay our dues. That's why God placed us on this earth. So, God has placed me, first, my alma mater, Yeshiva University, on a scholarship. I had a $5 stipend for the week. By Thursday, I had only 25 cents left for a Frankfurter. You can't get it today for 25 cents. I also earned a few dollars at the Pine View Hotel in the Catskills, Passover, being a busboy. And I became a great tipper because I had an old lady who wanted every morning double portions, prunes, hot milk. And I had a great expectation after 10 days I'm going to get a real tip. You know what I got? $1 for 10 days. But anyhow, that's the personal history. So, we all have to pay our dues. And I think when I arrived in New York, you'll find that American Jewry, there was no Israel, there was a very weak American Jewry. If you were a Jew coming from New York, and you wanted to get into Harvard, Yale, Princeton, numerous clauses. If you wanted to buy a co-op on Park Avenue, forget it. You're a Jew, you were going to Palm Beach or Miami Beach, excluded. So I made up my mind when I assumed the pulpit at Zichron Ephraim Park East in 1962. Be guided by three principles. Kol Yisrael Arevin Zel Hazeh. We are all responsible for one another. We cannot do it alone. And thank God today, interreligious cooperation is in. And finally, the most important thing, Jewish pride. We have to be united, we have to be proud of our heritage and transmit that ledor vador from generation to generation. And that's exactly what Park East Synagogue has done, particularly the hundreds and thousands of graduates, proud of their Jewish heritage, not worried about BDS, not worried about anti-Zionism. Anti-Semitism will have all the time. As long as you're proud and you know your heritage, nothing to fear. We say, Ani ma'amin be'emunah shlema, we shall overcome, as long as we pull together for social justice. I still remember working with Coretta King, trying to have the Martin Luther King Day embraced, because there was a lot of opposition. We didn't need another holiday. And Coretta and I worked on that. Or welcoming Pope Benedict for the first time in the history of the United States, a pope visiting a synagogue. That's what Jewish pride is all about. So it's a very emotional moment. Can you imagine? 70 years ago, Marine Marlin, docking. I was a highest client, by the way. Okay? And then, as has been said, thank God for Israel, thank God for the strong Jewish community, but I want you to repeat with me two things. God bless America. Say it. And may God protect this great city of ours that has been named the capital of the world. May it be safeguarded and protected. May the harmony that exists between all the ethnic and religious groups in this city, may it prevail for the benefit of all men and women in this blessed land of ours. Incidentally, thank you. Incidentally, I'm also proud every mayor of the city of New York visited Park East Synagogue. Ed Koch was a member. A. Beam was a member. I'm speaking out to the public servants, but it means to be a proud Jew. I'll never forget when Ed lost his father, which I officiated the funeral. I had Shiva services at Gracie Mansion. At Gracie Mansion, Shiva services. And Ed Koch walked without shoes. Okay? The same thing with Henry Kissinger as a member. He lost his mother, proud Jew. We say in our prayers, Tein kavod le'amecha. Give us honor, respect. All of you, my colleagues, each one of you has earned really the respect. And as, again, repeat, Kiddush Hashem, what you have done in every respective field of yours. May you continue to be the elite in this Hall of Fame and beyond. Thank you. God bless you all. Thank you.
You know, it's funny how life works in certain ways. Many years ago, actually 1965 to be exact, I was a very young rookie with the Cincinnati Reds. And the one place I didn't ever want to come to was New York. Didn't like the city. It was too big, too noisy, a little scary. Stayed right over here at the Roosevelt Hotel off Madison Avenue, and you know, it just was not my kind of place. And lo and behold, a couple years later, 3 years later to be exact, I was traded to the New York Mets. And in 1968, I lived out in a motel right across the street from LaGuardia Airport. Right as the season was over, I was married with 2 little girls at the time. We decided to move into the city just to try it. And we liked it a little bit. And lo and behold, the next year, 1969, we won the World Series, October 16th, 1969. My life changed. And 48 years later, I'm still living on the east side of Manhattan. Love this place, wouldn't change it for anything. It's been a wonderful ride for me. Speaking in 1969, in September, we were fighting for the pennant, something the Mets obviously were not used to doing. And I had to make a decision. It was a Jewish holiday, Yom Kippur, and I just did not know what to do. We were in Pittsburgh, and I was toying with taking off, not taking off. I was really torn. And I went to talk to my manager, Gil Hodges. Some of you might know that name. A great manager, a tremendous person. And I said to him, Gil, I'm really in a tough situation. I don't know what to do, whatever. And he said, well, you do whatever you think is best for you. And I said, okay, I think I need to take off. I want to take off. He said, okay, well, you do what you think is best. And we were playing the Pittsburgh Pirates in a doubleheader, and I was really kind of in the middle of some turmoil. You know, a lot of times I get questions about how was it being a Jewish kid coming up in the minor leagues, playing the big leagues, and I always tell people I was a baseball player who happened to be Jewish, and it turns out it was great for me to be Jewish and play in the big leagues because I think I've had a little bit of influence with some people. But I'm going to tell you a little funny story about that because people always think that there was some crime was going to happen to you for being Jewish and playing baseball. It didn't happen to me. So this is a little funny story that happened. So anyway, I took off, and we were playing the Pirates in a doubleheader, and I said, please, God, let's split the game. I can deal with that, but let's not lose a doubleheader. And lo and behold, we won both games of the doubleheader, 1-0. I took off in Pittsburgh. And I came to the ballpark the next day really happy we won the doubleheader. And nobody's talking to me. I walk in the clubhouse, nobody says anything, and I'm thinking there's something wrong here. So I walk over to my locker, and I look in my locker, and there's a big sign that says, well, we won 2 games in a row. Why don't you take off the rest of the year? But it turned out, as it turned out, over the years, and I really realized this in the last 15, 20 years, that when I took off for the Jewish holidays that year, that has been passed on from generation to generation. And I'm not saying this from an egotistical standpoint. I'm saying this from a very proud Jew standpoint. Kids who weren't even born know about me doing that, and I've come to realize that how important it was to do that and to be part of history. And I've come to understand that we're here in this life to really kind of influence people in a positive way. And I've hoped over the years that by doing that and by celebrating my Judaism, that I've contributed some way to some youngster thinking positive about being Jewish. And for that, I'm very, very grateful. Thank you very much for honoring me. And again, congratulations to everybody on the panel.
You know, this is, when Howard called, I said, what are you, really? Come on, why would you honor me as a Jew? Look here. There is something, obviously, that binds all of us in terms of our pride of being Jewish. There's also something that binds us, which is our love of Manhattan, which is more and more, as I spend the time around the United States, more and more of an island. A wonderful island, but an island. And it's too late to talk about a lot of values, except to say gratitude and living one's values. Whether it's tzedek der Dorf, which is a value that seems to guide my life, or those that so many have said. I do want to just say something about gratitude. People often say to me, why are you rushing home on Fridays? Well, rushing home to New York is always a valuable thing to do. But why Fridays? Because I get to, Rabbi, go to another of the great synagogues in New York City, in Manhattan, CBST, because I get the honor in my Jewish life of having a second job, which is that of the Rebbitzin in the synagogue. And I'm honored that my girlfriend and partner, Rabbi Sharon Kleinbaum, is here. Sharon has taught me and so many people gratitude, and I am grateful for that. She will kill me later, but I am grateful for that. The second thing and the last thing I want to say is this. Every person on this stage stands up and shows up for values, living one's values. And as many have said already, it is a very perilous time. We may or may not be in a constitutional crisis right now. I'll have to ask the judge. But ultimately, what we should know and have learned from the tradition that many of us obviously still love and have been informed by is to stand up and show up for our values. Thank you very much.
That ends my portion of the evening. I want to thank each and every one of you for having me as one of your hosts tonight. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. You've proven to be the Hall of Fame leadership, far beyond what we could ever have imagined in terms of what you brought to this evening. Thank you all.
Be pleased to send a complimentary DVD of this program to anyone who wishes to support JBS, the Jewish Broadcasting Service, with a tax-deductible gift of $36, double chai or more, to the nonprofit organization Jewish Education in Media. Simply visit the JBS homepage and click on the Donate button to make a donation by PayPal or your credit card. And please indicate the program for which you would like a DVD. Or you can send your tax-deductible check made out to Jem, Post Office Box 180, Riverdale Station, Bronx, New York 10471. And again, please remember to indicate which program you would like to receive with our compliments. And we thank you for your kind support.